Welcome to this explainer. Usually when we think of August, we think of heat, hitting the beach, and summer vacations. But right now, for meteorologists and first responders, August 2026 is marking the absolute peak of the most dangerous season on Earth. We're going to look at the massive swath of the Northern Hemisphere that is currently facing a totally unprecedented crisis. So let's just dive right into it. We're actually calling this the season of water because right now a massive, massive portion of the globe is under a flood watch. We're talking everywhere from the dense, humid jungles of Southeast Asia all the way to the arid, sun-scorched deserts of the American Southwest. The risk of catastrophic inundation is quite literally rising by the hour. It's a pretty jarring contrast, isn't it? While a lot of folks are just trying to enjoy their summer break, rising waters are out there posing this catastrophic, real-time threat globally. And that really brings us to a super urgent question. Is a flood watch just, a little extra rain to ruin your picnic? Or is it a life-threatening disaster? It's one of those terms popping up constantly on our news feeds and buzzing on our phones. But what does it actually mean for you and your family? Decoding this meteorological terminology isn't just a matter of semantics. It is quite literally the difference between life and death. We absolutely need to understand what we're facing when these alerts go out. Okay, let's break down the National Weather Service scale. It's easiest to think of a flood watch like a yellow traffic light. It just means conditions are favorable for flooding. You aren't crashing yet, but you really need to slow down, look both ways, and get prepared. Now, a warning, that is your red light. Flooding is imminent or it's happening right this second. And a flash flood emergency, that means the water is rising so rapidly it's a catastrophic crisis for human life. And the scary thing is, right now across the globe, these yellow watches are turning into red warnings at just an alarming rate because the ground is already saturated and the rivers are already running high. Let's take a quick trip around the globe to see this in action, starting over in South Asia, which is currently bearing the absolute brunt of the southwest monsoon. The situation in northern India and Nepal is severe right now. The monsoon trough has completely stalled out. Just imagine getting 2 whole weeks' worth of rain in just 48 hours. That incredible volume of water is pushing the Brahmaputra and Ganges river basins to extremely dangerous levels. And all that water rushes rapidly downstream into Bangladesh, which basically acts like a giant delta, catching all this runoff. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, concrete jungles like Lahore are on super high alert. When heavy rain hits solid concrete, it just can't absorb, and that triggers really severe urban flash flooding. But hey, the threat definitely isn't just isolated to the Indian subcontinent. Shifting over to the Western Pacific, their typhoon season is in full, violent swing. There is a very powerful tropical cyclone churning east of the Philippines right now. And here's the thing. Even if the exact track of where it makes landfall shifts, the storm is so massive that its outer rain bands alone are enough to trigger severe flood watches across Taiwan, the Philippines, and the southern islands of Japan as these huge bands of moisture sweep across the entire region. Now, different parts of the world are dealing with their own completely unique localized threats. In the United States, we're seeing 2 wild extremes. Afternoon thunderstorms in the southwest are hitting recent wildfire burn scars. And when water hits scorched earth, it doesn't soak in. It instantly turns into these deadly, fast-moving mud and debris flows. At the exact same time, the Gulf Coast is battling hurricane season with king tides and heavy squalls. But if you look across the Atlantic at Central and Eastern Europe, the threat looks totally different. There, you had these slow-moving convective supercells dropping so much water, so fast, that small tributaries in these ancient urban drainage systems are just being completely, utterly overwhelmed. So you're probably wondering, why is August 2026 looking so incredibly wet everywhere? Well, it all basically comes down to a concept called the atmospheric sponge. Global sea surface temperatures are running significantly above average right now, and that creates way more evaporation. A warmer atmosphere acts exactly like a giant sponge, just absorbing all of that extra moisture. But what happens when you squeeze a really saturated sponge? When this warm, super moist air finally hits a mountain range or a cold front, the atmosphere basically gets squeezed, unleashing torrents of rain that are just far, far heavier than anything we would have seen, say, 30 years ago. Now, add to that atmospheric sponge a phenomenon known as blocking patterns. Picture a giant boulder dropped right in the middle of a fast-flowing stream. That is exactly what high-pressure systems are doing in our atmosphere right now. They get stuck in place, acting just like that boulder, stalling the normal day-to-day movement of storm systems. Because these weather systems stall out, the rain just keeps falling and falling over the exact same historical flood zones, and, even more alarmingly, over new inland areas that are completely unaccustomed to this kind of volume. And when those storm systems get blocked like that, It leads directly to a terrifying meteorological effect known as training storms. It's exactly what it sounds like. Because the overall weather pattern is blocked, individual thunderstorms just roll over the exact same geographic spot, one after another after another. Think of train cars rolling down a track. There is no break and absolutely zero time for the ground to actually absorb the water. This is a huge reason why the risk is expanding so rapidly right now, and why watches are being issued for inland areas that historically have literally never flooding. I want you to really think about this incredibly sobering reality for a second. A 100-year flood event is now becoming a 20-year event in many regions. Just let that sink in. The science is undeniably clear that the ceiling for extreme rainfall has risen globally. What used to be a once-in-a-century catastrophe is now happening with this really terrifying frequency. The ground is soaked, rivers are high, storms are stalling out, and as a result, our entire baseline expectation for what a severe storm even looks like has completely changed. All right, but we aren't just here to look at scary data. We are here to get you prepared, because action saves lives. Information is power, and knowing exactly what to do can help you outsmart the storm. If you are under a flood watch right now, or honestly, if you ever find yourself under one in the future, there is a clear, proven checklist you need to follow to build a really strong defense for you and your family. So, here is your 6-step survival checklist. First off, stay informed. Don't rely on outdoor sirens. Turn on your smartphone emergency alerts and get a reliable radar app, because a watch can escalate to a warning in literal minutes. Second, charge your devices right now. If the power goes out, your phone is your absolute lifeline. Third, pack a waterproof go bag. Toss in your critical documents, IDs, medication, and some bottled water. Fourth, watch the rivers around you. If they look muddy and are rising fast, do not wait for an official order to seek higher ground. Fifth, turn around, don't drown. Never ever drive through flooded roads. And finally, sixth, know your flood zone. If you're in a basement or a low-lying area, go shelter with a neighbor on higher ground while the watch is active. Trust me, it is always better to be bored and safe than comfortable and trapped. Actually, I want to zero in on one really specific number from that checklist. 12 inches. 1 foot. That is all it takes. The National Weather Service emphasizes this constantly because driving into floodwaters is one of the most common and fatal mistakes people make. People really underestimate the sheer raw physics of water. I mean, a single cubic foot of water weighs over 60 pounds. It takes just 12 inches of that flowing mass to easily sweep away a small car, and just 2 feet will carry away a heavy SUV. If you see water over the road, you have absolutely no idea if the road beneath it has been totally washed away. Just find an alternate route. 12 inches is all it takes to lose complete control. As we wrap up this explainer, we really need to remember that floods are actually the deadliest natural disaster in the world. They claim more lives annually than earthquakes, hurricanes, or tornadoes. But here is the really critical takeaway. The vast majority of these tragedies are entirely preventable. As these flood watches continue to escalate throughout August, the ultimate goal is to be smarter than the storm. If you respect the power of nature, stay vigilant, and prepare early, you can survive this. Watch the sky, watch the water, and please, watch out for each other.
So I'm going to leave you with one final, critical question to chew on. In a changing climate where rain falls harder than ever, is your family truly ready for the next watch? We've seen exactly how the combination of warmer oceans, blocked weather patterns, and training storms are making global floods way more severe and frequent. Understanding this threat, knowing the exact difference between a watch and a warning, and having your go bag ready to roll, it isn't just paranoid preparation anymore. It's just essential for living today. So review that 6-step checklist, have that conversation with your family tonight. Stay informed, stay prepared, and as always, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.